of the fine from $1,000 to $1 million, with the term of imprisonment remaining the same. And the other amendments are to the first schedule, to reflect an increase in the radio operators certificates examination fees. So at E, we're increasing the general operator certificate from $1,000 to $2,000. At H, we are increasing the amateur radio operator certificate class A, B, and C. That's H, I, and J. Class A, B, and C, the operator certificate from $500 to $2,500. And then we're also increasing the radio technician's license fee for class A from $1,200 to $2,000, and for class B from $800 to $1,200. And those are the amendments, Chair and committee members.
Okay. Ms. Allen, any thoughts?
Well, it's not very often that you see these sorts of fees. So it took a while for my mind to adjust to these numbers, understanding exactly where they're coming from. And I'm just wondering whether we are truly satisfied. And I know that in the last meeting, we discussed the fact that the fees are maintained or intended to be at the level they are based on the usage and how many people seem to apply. There was a justification for it, but still, I just hope that we are not going to be faced with a proposed review of these fees soon, because it's quite small. We're not really used to these fees. Not that we're suggesting to be exorbitant, you know, but it's just hard to adjust my eyes and mind to these numbers.
I understand, sir.
But I trust the experts in the ministry that they are making the recommendations based on the work that they would have put in to determine that this is the level that it ought to be at.
Right, and I'll defer to the Spectrum Management Authority member, but the fees that are proposed here are those that would have been proposed following consultation, and of course, a consultant that was engaged to assist the SMA in determining what is appropriate in the circumstances. So, Mr. Malcolm.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Murray. And
Mr. Malcolm, could you put your video on, please?
I'm sorry.
See you. Yeah,
apologies.
Thank you.
Apologies.
Thank you.
Yes. Just want to say good morning again to the entire team. In response, as Ms. Murray indicated, the fees are fees that we would have gone through a particular process in determining, as well as it relates to best practice across the region as it relates to these fees, based on the fact that most of these fees, as we had indicated before, you know, we have like hobbyists and so on that are participating, utilizing these licenses. The fees are not intended to be exorbitant, and it's just merely for recovering costs of the SMA really in processing these licensing type.
Okay. Senator Mayor? Okay, I think we have lost him. Yes, you have any comments? We're not hearing you. I think you're muted, Senator.
Yes, I'm saying I agree. I mean, heading an organization that deals with a lot of fees, I understand it. One, the difficulties of changing fees, and two, the process that is involved in arriving at new fees. So I'm quite comfortable that they would have gone through that process and would have come to the fees properly.
Before I ask you whether you approve, may I ask either Mr. Malcolm or Mrs. Perry about how many licenses you now have for these hobbyists and so on, as you call them? Roughly, I don't need an accurate figure.
Actually, you catch me off guard here, Chairman.
Okay.
As I am unable to speak to the number of licensees in these specific category. If it is so needed, I could get the information to you.
Well, it's not needed. It's just an interest. I wouldn't.
Okay.
Press you on it. So we are welcoming Senator Charles Liebert, who is with us. Well,
thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chairman. You can see, there you go. Thank you, Chairman. You can see my okay, I think my video is now on. There we go. You can see that my name is a product of my son's online classes. So
other OC, Senator Fraser.
Just a moment.
But I'm not objecting. I'm just noting it. Anyhow,
good morning, everyone.
I am going to ask whether the members think we can put this, we can accept this one. Let's start with Senator Allen.
Yes, we can. I'm in agreement with this.
Senator Mayor?
Yes.
And Senator Fraser Binns.
Chairman, I will oppose. I'm not in a position to oppose, Chairman.
Very well, thank you. So, Miss Murray, this one is also approved. Next one. Not hearing you, Miss Murray. You're muted. You're muted, Miss Murray. Still muted. I'd have to ask Senator Fraser Binns to read your lips because we're not hearing you. Okay, you're up again. Go ahead. No, not anymore. Well, Mr. Nash, it appears that the technical team may have to assist.
Yes, I'll be in contact with them. A moment.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, we are hearing you now.
All right, I had to, I was using my earpiece earlier, so I think there are some challenges there. All right, so the next, thank you, Chairman, thank you, members. So the regulations that we're moving on to next is the Radio and Telegraph Control Maritime Mobile Radio Service Amendment Regulations of 2022. Regulation 3, paragraph 2, was amended to provide for 3 different tenures of the licenses that are issued under this regulation. 1 year for local vessels and 6 months and 4 years for international ships. We'd like the committee to note that applications on behalf of international ships are made through the Jamaica Ship Registry, which is administered by the Maritime Authority of Jamaica. Pursuant to the Shipping Act, the Maritime Authority of Jamaica requires provisional registration of a ship and thereafter permanent registration. Consequently, the tenure of the spectrum licenses for these vessels have been tailored accordingly for administrative ease. However, Jamaican ships are not eligible for a provisional license and may only apply for a grant of a 1-year license. Hence the amendments there for 6 months and 4 years for international ships and 1 year for local vessels.
So the international ships would be 4 years. What is it now for the international ships?
Colleagues, can you assist me with that, please, SMA?
Hi, yes. With respect to international ships at this point in time, as Ms. Murray would have pointed out, what is really, well, firstly, as noted, that there would be a temporary situation, temporary licenses, so to speak, that would be issued based on the fact that the international ships sometimes they come calling and they are really just for the moment just wanted to come in, deliver, and then to move again. But subsequent to that, they would then have their permanent licenses. Now, what we do at this point in time is that there is well, firstly, there was a 3 months is what we would have issued previously, a 3-month license for the temporary, and then as it relates for the permanent, it would be a 3-year. And what we're doing now, based on discussions with the Maritime Association, it would be that as presented, a 4-year license and also a 6 months, sorry, Chairman, 6 months position for the international licenses.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Oh, I think Sophie, you can go ahead.
thanks. Chairman, I just wondered what is the rationale for 1 year for Jamaica and 4 years for international?
Mr. Malcolm?
Okay, thank you for that question, member. With regards to the local operators, and it's really the truth of it is based on recommendations. We also, as I mentioned, with the Maritime Association of Jamaica, and also what obtains as it relates to our general licenses with local operators. They're usually, the tendency is for us to license operators with a renewal for a 1-year period. The difference with the international operators, as noted, is that they are not necessarily here, every year, so to speak, to come in and to renew and to do the necessary information. They will call on our ports as is necessary, so as to provide much more certainty where they are concerned, so that at any point in time, within that period, they can call on our port. This is the reason for the difference in timelines.
If I could tack on to the question raised by Senator Fraser Binns, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Okay, I thanks, Mr. Malcolm, for that. I want to find out, though, in addition to what you've provided, how does this 4-year stack up against other jurisdictions? And also, you mentioned before that there are instances where there's unless I misunderstood, there was some reference made to a 3-year period. And as you were explaining the current situation, can you help me to understand if we are already operating in the 3-year space where we would need to move to 4, and how many requests of this nature do we have? And how it stacks up against other countries in the region.
Okay, thank you for that, member. And as we pointed out before, as it relates to the amendments that are being proposed, these were done primarily through consultation and what obtains regionally. And as it relates to the number of maritime requests, I can tell you that the majority, currently, the SMA may have approximately somewhere a little over 500 active licensees. And I can tell you without a doubt that maritime licenses are the majority, and we're talking about convincing majority. We may have, and my estimate here, conservatively, over near 200 maritime licensees. So they are a major part of our licensees.
Okay, so you're saying the 4-year is the standard in the region, and the majority of the licensees right now are international. in this regard?
I'm not saying
Also?
purely international, but overall, as it relates to the number that are international, I would have to determine those numbers. But I do also believe that they are the majority out of the total maritime licensees.
It would be good to know with certainty, but I take what you're saying as the estimate from your experience. And just to clarify, in terms of the license, the fee that they would be charged, the international operator, it falls within the realm of, I'm not seeing it on this amendment. Can you just help me? Or is it in the same?
Remember the fee proposed for the provisional 6 months license is $70 US, and the 4-year license is $280 US.
Okay.
If I may, Janice, may I just ask a question along the
Sure,
line?
sure.
I wondered, Miss Murray or Mr. Malcolm, if you could help me. Our cruise ships, are those considered as part of the persons here who would have a maritime license?
Okay. All ships that call on our ports,
okay,
they have to receive a license.
Very well. And I ask you that because I note that, and I'm not sure if you're in a position to give me that information, but I know I'm skipping here, but when I look at the fees, that's why I wanted to tack on Janice, because I want to ask a question about the fees. Because when I look at the fees, I note that the fees as is being proposed for international is $70 for the 6-month license, and the 4-year license is $280. And I wondered whether any consideration has given to like the size. For example, when you look at the locals, you see that there's a consideration to the size, and I'm calling it size, and I stand to be corrected, but it's called public ship station vis-a-vis private ship station. And at some point you can explain that. But I noticed that there is in the public ship station, there are 4 categories, and the fees are based according to the categories. I don't know what determine the category, whether this is based on size or based on capacity. I don't know. I'm hoping you can guide me. And if that is the case, why was such a consideration given for international?
Okay. And as it relates to the different categories, for the most part, it is really dependent on the radio stations and the type and the radio with which they are utilizing on board, because it's not necessarily have to do with the ship itself or the size of the ship or anything of that sort, but the equipment that they're utilizing with the spectrum, and as well the ability of the equipment that is being utilized, as there are various different type equipment, which will allow for different benefits, so to speak, to use the layman's term. So it is based on the equipment that they are utilizing for the most part that will determine the different fees that they may be asked to pay.
As a follow-up, and hopefully my last question, if you could just help me to understand the difference in equipment. For example, if you look at private ship station license, ships off, and it goes to the part that says 1,600 gross tons and over. Yes? Are you seeing that? Right. That's on page 4.
Page 4.
Right. And I'm using that because that has the highest for local, and it says it's $50,000. And I compare that, and that is for the year, and I compare that to the overseas, the international ship that has a 4-year of 280 US. I mean, when you do the conversion, it's far less than what the local would be asked to pay over a 4-year period. So if you can help me to understand what determines what equipment's for. So what I'm trying to understand, in this case where the highest is 1,600, does it use a different set of equipment than, say, the international ships coming to Jamaica that charges less?
Okay, all right, thank you for that, member. And just a note, as I indicated initially in making reference to the fees, the local ships, as it were, based on usage, our local ships normally utilizes based on, well, the fact that, they're, Jamaican ships, they normally utilize the let's say the frequency more often than an international ship. The price associated with spectrum usually takes into consideration usage and value of spectrum. Now, if you utilize the spectrum more often than another party, then we will take those things into consideration, as opposed to someone that uses it perhaps once or twice for the year per se. So in determining spectrum prices generally, and this is internationally accepted, the consideration also involves the usage of the spectrum itself, whether or not you're going to be consistently utilizing the spectrum, or is it a situation with which it is not used frequently. So these consideration goes into, say, the international. As I mentioned before, the international may call on our port, this one time for the year, and they never come back till another 2 years or 3 years. And as such, that is taken into consideration in determining the price with which they would pay for their fees, as opposed to a local operator, which would be utilizing the frequency more frequently.
Thank you. Before we go on, may I
Thank you.
welcome Senator Golden Campbell, and also observe that Mrs. Osborne Perry says in a note that there are about 78 amateur radio licenses. Yes, go ahead, please.
So that was in relation to the first, the radio operators and technicians, the 78 amateur radio licenses?
Yeah, Mrs. Osborne Perry?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Go ahead, please. Okay, have we reached a point now then that I can put it to the vote? Mayor?
Yes,
Mayor?
yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Senator Fraser Binns?
Yes, Chairman.
Yes, Senator Allen?
Yes, sir.
Senator Golden Campbell, although you only just arrived.
Yes, sir. I was following on YouTube when I was trying to get in. So, yes, sir.
So, Miss Murray, this one also is approved.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. Actually our final regulations would be the Radio and Telegraph Control Private Radio Service Regulations of 2022. We have inserted a regulation 2A2, which is consistent with the provisions in the other pieces of regulations that we would have looked at before, and that provides for the imposition of a penalty for the establishment, maintenance, or use of a station without a valid license. An offense under this regulation is liable to a fine not exceeding $3 million or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years. And of course, the financial penalty here is higher than in similar regulations because of the technical capabilities of the spectrum used for this service. There is an amendment at regulation.
Sorry, could you repeat the financial aspect of the penalty, please?
$3 million
okay.
or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, please.
Regulation 3 was amended to, among other things, provide for additional periods of validity to cater to all the category of services which are captured under the heading of private radio, in particular, backhaul spectrum, which supports mobile services. As a result of the new periods of validity, it was also necessary to make amendments to reflect that the fees for a license, with the exception of a 3-month license, are payable annually, regardless of the duration of the license. And this is because with the liberalization of the telecommunications market and the award of licenses to the mobile operators for 15 years, the tenure of the subsidiary licenses, that is the private radio licenses, for ease of administration were tied to that of the primary mobile license. Therefore, upon the initial grant of a mobile license, the private radio license is granted for 15 years. So when a mobile license is issued, a private radio license is issued for 15 years as well. Thereafter, if additional private radio licenses are required, the shorter tenures of 10 and 5 years become applicable. However, despite the tenure, based on the value of the licenses, the operators are allowed to pay in annually in order for the license to remain valid. There is also an amendment to Regulation 17 that provides that a person failing or refusing to produce an appropriate license within 7 days shall be guilty of an offense and liable to a fine not exceeding $50 or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 months. We've amended the fine to increase that from $50 to $100,000. Regulation 18, paragraph 3 was also amended, and that is a similar provision to one that the members would have considered before, the issue of the obligation of secrecy. So Regulation 18.3 provides that any person who fails to comply with Regulation 18.1 and 2, that is the obligation of secrecy, shall be guilty of an offense and liable to a fine not exceeding $1,000. Members will recall that we had proposed an increase to $5 million in other pieces of regulations before the committee. And so likewise, this particular one has been, the proposal is for it to be increased to $5 million and 5 years as well. And then with respect to Regulation 33, which permits the grant of a license for periods shorter than a year and for the payment of prorated fees accordingly. So we've amended Regulation 33 to permit the grant of a license for periods shorter than 1 year and for the payment of prorated fees. And then finally, the first schedule was amended to reflect new fees for several categories of licenses. And I'll go through those quickly. So non-commercial broadcast licenses the fee was decreased from $30,000 to $25,000. Aeronautical mobile aircraft station licenses were increased from $5,000 to $30,000. Aeronautical ground station licenses have been increased from $10,000 to $40,000, and aeronautical special ground station decreased from 1 million to 10,000. Emergency earth.
Miss
Yes,
Murray, I'm sorry. I think you lost me. And I just wanted if you could help me to appreciate you. I'm looking here at the first schedule and you're speaking to the fees, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
You were speaking to the different ones and I'm lost on the document. So I'm trying to follow you. Some have been increased, some have been decreased.
Right. My apologies.
Page
What I should
You're
have
on page-
mentioned.
Sorry, Ms. Murray, if I help, just to help senators, it's on page 8, because I was looking for it myself.
Mhm.
So just to explain to the members, rather than amend, rather than just introduce the amendments, what we agreed with the CPC is that we would just remove the entire first schedule and replace it. So what I'm pointing out are the fees that have been affected by the spectrum pricing policy that was approved by Cabinet. So everything else remains. So I just wanted to point that out. So I omitted to say that. So some fees have not changed.
So,
And
so walk me through now, please. You started with the non-commercial broadcast, which is currently, you're proposing it to be 30,000, and you're saying it's coming from?
25.
Okay, and you can continue with the rest if you don't mind.
And then we are increasing the aeronautical mobile ground station from $10,000 to $40,000. We're decreasing aeronautical special ground station from $1 million to $10,000, and increasing the emergency.
I'm sorry, CTD, if I can. In the regulations itself, when you say aeronautical ground station, are you referring to the fee set out at 1C of the schedule in the principal regulations?
So aeronautical would be, if we look at the regulations, it would be on page 8 under the heading Special Services Not Previously Scheduled.
Okay.
And in the list there, you'll see aeronautical ground station as well as aeronautical special ground station.
If I may, I think what she's asking, Ms. Murray, is whether the previous fees you're talking about are the ones that are presently stated in the regulations. Because maybe the concern you have, Shireen, is, sorry, Senator Golden can be the same as mine, because the ones that we're looking at in the big, thick regulation that you gave us, there seems to be a little discrepancy with the figures that you're calling. Is that it, Senator Golden Campbell?
That's
okay,
my confusion. I'm trying to look at the bill that's before us and compare with the regulations currently in force.
I see what your
where
issue
the changes
is, Senator.
are.
I know what your challenge is. So the regulations that you have before you were actually amended in 1998. So what I'm referring to as the current fees are fees that would have been amended in 1998, and some of those aren't necessarily captured in what you might be looking at in the private radio. So you give me a moment. So for example,
we didn't hear that comment, Shireen.
I'm saying I'm looking at the 1998 regulations. That is what is available.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I'm operating with online documents today, but I'm looking at the 1998 regs. And now I'm looking at what you have tabled and put before this committee now, see where exactly the fees are moving and what is moving. And I'm not able to reconcile the two. So I get that at the special services section, those were not previously in the 1998 regs. Am I correct in saying that?
No, they actually were. So in the private radio regulations of 1973, the original, right? At 8 special services not previously scheduled, the aeronautical special ground station was $1 million, right? That's what I'm talking about, right? Yes. And
yes,
then,
but I don't want you to confuse me, because I'm not referring to 1972. I'm referring to
1998. It's there as well as $1 million. So that's on. Not sure how to do it.
Refer me to the regulation.
Under the heading Special Services Not Previously Scheduled, and it's number Roman numeral 4.
Right. And that is here now.
So we have aeronautical ground station, 1, and the existing fee is 10,000, and we're increasing that to 40. And then just below it, we have the aeronautical special ground station, which is $1 million, and we're decreasing that to 10,000.
I see. I'm there. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, and I do appreciate the decrease, but could you tell us why you're decreasing?
I'll revert to my colleagues at the SMA on this, Chairman.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for that question. Again, Chairman, as I would have previously indicated in another session, that the prices as it relates to the spectrum, just generally speaking, it's demand and supply. And in terms of the usage, over time, different spectrum or different services are more prominent and more in demand than others. And when the demand fall and there's not much usage of it, it does make sense for us to keep a high price. And so it's usually the prices are market driven based on demand and supply. So therefore, for example, VSATs, in many years ago, a lot of people had VSAT, and so the demand for VSAT was very high, was great, and hence there was a great demand on the spectrum itself, and as such, that would have influenced the price. Over time, this has changed. Persons are no longer so much into VSAT anymore, and as such, the demand for it has fell. Likewise, the prices, and these are how a lot of the prices are determined, Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions?
So just to conclude, Chairman, if I might, where the increases or decreases have taken place, the emergency earth station, that has been increased from $5,000 to $50,000, and the commercial earth station has been decreased from $1 million to $500,000. As well, VSAT licenses for multi-users have decreased from 500,000 to 200,000, and for direct to business, 150,000 for direct to home. So that has been, those are the major changes in fees. And then the members will note that new algorithms in relation to point-to-point microwave links, point-to-multipoint microwave links, and duplex pairs, point-to-multipoint microwave links has been introduced into the regulations, as well as new fees and algorithm for new services related to low power FM broadcasting and mobile subscriber TV services. And that would be the end of the amendments, Chairman and members.
Yes. So let me start with alphabetically then. Senator Allen.
I will have to take the advice of the no, from the explanations. I am appreciating the figures. I still will have to make myself a little bit more comfortable with for example, the algorithm section, but I don't really have any issue with what you have proposed here.
Senator Fraser, please.
Chairman, I'm in support of it, particularly when it comes on to the decrease in the fees.
Okay. Senator.
Maybe we can apply decreases to other fees that we know of, right?
Yes, we should.
We don't have the power. Senator Senator Williams.
Yes, Chairman.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Hold on. I say I'm going alphabetical.
Yes, so it's
Senator Golden Campbell.
I'm in agreement, Chairman.
Okay, so let's go, Senator Williams.
I'm saying yes, but just saying also be careful of those decreases. You have a budget to finance. Just joking.
But
Senator Williams.
All right, so Miss Murray, we will take this one has been approved as well for your records. And that's the full set of them now. Okay,
Yes,
Mr. Nash, anything else that you need to do before we conclude?
At this time, the only other thing I'm looking at is just the reports, which I've prepared, but I'll finalize the attendance on them and send them out later on for today, for the next.
So we are to sign them, or we sign them when we come to the Senate?
Signing up at the Senate.
Very well. All right, so then it is just for me to thank Miss Murray, Mr. Malcolm, and Mrs. Osborne Perry for really ably assisting us, and to thank the senators along with Mr. Nash and Cunningham for your assistance. And I see Senator Golden Campbell, one of her fingers up, so she's moving that the meeting be adjourned. And I see Senator Allen's hand up as well. So I accept that she will second it. Is that all right, Mr. Nash?
So done, so done.
So
Yes.
Thank you. It's called democracy. So
this
I want
chairman
to
is
thank you.
special.
I want to thank you and trust and pray that you'll have an excellent week during this this time and for the rest of the week. God bless you all.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you,
much.
Chairman and members.
Members.
Thank you. You're welcome. Bye.
Recording stopped.
No matter where in this world I go, I am a Jamaican.
Join PBCJ on April 25 for the Jamaica 60 media launch live from the United Kingdom. Tune in at 1 p.m. or catch the rebroadcast